All right, welcome to the live stream for week 43. As it seems, my webcam is not working properly as I had to go to the campus suddenly since they cut off my broadband today, just before lunch, so I had to go here instead in a little bit of a rush. I hope you can hear me and that you can see the screen at least. Please let me know if there's any problems. Also, I'm guessing the sound is not as good, or at least different than usual, since I'm using the mic on the laptop right now. All right. We are really enclosing the end of the course. Exactly 1 week left. So hopefully most of you are at least working on the last workshop, and the deadline is to hand that one in next Friday. So you have a week. Yesterday there were some tests going on for you that didn't pass the first time. You had the second chance. From what I could see, we are now at 75% or something like that have passed. And I will take a look at the comments ASAP with a focus on those that did not pass the test, so that you can get maybe a bonus point to pass, or maybe some feedback so you can adjust your learning strategies for the next time you can do the test. And if you fail that one also, there will be additional testing periods, at least one before Christmas, as it's quite easy to set up the tests. But as you probably know, we are working on workshop number 2. And this week has been quite a busy week for me. We had, first the test last week that had to be corrected, and then we also had two days here at the campus Kalmar where we used the new IoT lab for 2 days, and that was quite fun. So it was a little bit of extracurricular activities for me. When can we expect to get the workshop 2 results? Extrapolating from the speed we have right now, it will be in 6 months. But no, we will try to increase the pace there. So I hope this will be done in about 2 weeks. That's the goal, definitely the goal. So I will try to crunch out the assessments a little bit at least. It's not the most stimulating work you can imagine, but it's you deserve some feedback since you worked hard on it. So I hope that you can get some learning out of the feedback you get also. And basically we will have 3 levels of assessment. So you will have the passing grade as usual, and you will have the you need to hand in again grade. But we will have a middle grade there also, where you need to present a solution for some problem that you have in your code. But this you can do by calling me on Slack. So I will set up some appointments and we can just discuss your problems and potential solutions to it, and then you can pass the workshop. So there will be 1 grade that is a little bit of a middle ground. How do we know if we have any problems in workshop 2 if we give the higher grade in a week? Well, yeah, that is of course a problem, but you will not be assessed for the higher grades. The problems in the passing grade will not affect the possible problems in the higher grades will not affect the once more. The possible problems in the passing grade will not affect the higher grades. So you can present a good solution for the problems in the higher grades, even if you have some mistakes in the lower grades. All right. But as you can imagine, I think there were 170 submissions. So there are quite a few diagrams to look at and quite a lot of source code to look at, and trying to do a good and fair assessment will take time, and especially give some kind of feedback at least to what is good and what is maybe not optimal from a design perspective at least. So as I said, we'll probably have said many times before, workshop number 3 is not that large. It's you need to have the knowledge to do it, but it's not super large, and it should not take a very long time to do if you have this knowledge about the observer pattern, for example. All right. That's about it. So next Friday will be the last live stream, and I will try to conclude the course there, and we will see what will happen next, and so on and so forth. But that will come, I guess. So my idea for today is actually to take a look at an example of responsibility-driven design. And the example will actually be, how can we design the model part for workshop number 2 by just applying the responsibility-driven design methodology and the basic grasp patterns. And I will focus on the 2 requirements that are basic for the model. The first one, I think it is, that we should be able to create a new member. The member should have a name, a personal number. There should be a unique ID for every member. This ID should be created and assigned to when we create the member. So it's some kind of automatic creation of a unique ID that needs to happen when we create a new member. And the second requirement is we should be able to register a new boat for a member, and the boat should have a type and a length. So basically, the responsibility-driven a question first, for making sure. Last week you said you pay attention to the details in the class diagram for workshop 3 by saying that. Did you mean only the associations or attributes and operations? Well, for workshop number 3, again, it's mostly the relationships that's interesting. Will there be some tutoring sessions Wednesday, Friday next week? Yes, there will be. There will be a little bit more tutoring than this week, I think, at least from my part. I will probably do tutoring on, probably do tutoring on Monday to Thursday. I'm guessing I will do afternoons this time, and it will probably be 2 hours every day. Going back to the little example here. So the responsibility-driven design methodology separates responsibility into 2 different categories: knowing responsibilities and doing responsibilities. Typically, the knowing are a little bit easier. So the responsibilities for knowing for these 2 requirements is someone needs to know a member's name, a member's personal number, this unique ID. We need to know the type of a boat, the length of a boat. A little bit more hidden maybe is that we need to some way know what are the boat types that we can have, and also we need to know a member's boats, so that we know that this member owns these boats. So that's the knowing responsibilities we need to address, and there are also some doing responsibilities, some kind of behavior that needs to be fulfilled. So we need someone that is responsible for creating a member. We need something that is responsible for generating or assigning this unique ID. And we need something that is responsible for registering a new boat to a member. So the starting point is, of course, the domain model. So we probably have a domain model that looks something like this. We have a member class, maybe we have some attributes. In this case, we can probably say that we have the name and the personal number. We have a boat with the length and the type, and we know that the member owns a number of boats. That's basically the domain model we have for this small subset of requirements. So for the knowing part, we should find out who should be responsible for knowing the name of a member, knowing the personal number of a member, knowing the ID of a member. Looking at the domain model, it would not be surprising that we should probably create a member class in the design that has a name as an attribute, that has a personal number as an attribute, and that has an ID of an attribute. Consequently, we should probably also create a boat class that is responsible for knowing the length of a boat and responsible for knowing the type of the boat. A little bit more hidden is that we need to know a little bit more about what types exist and who should know the boats of a member. Who should know the boats of a member is probably not that hard, since we have this association even in the domain model between the member and the boat. So the design model in this case could look something like this, that we have this member class with the name, the personal number, and the identifier. We have the boat class with the length, and we add this boat type class to handle the knowledge of the allowed types of boats that we can have. Sailboat, motorsailor, kayak, canoe, and other. The boat has this as an association, so it has an attribute in it called m_type of type boat type. Many types there. The member has some form of collection that handles all the boats for the member in an attribute called m_owned boats. So basically this solves all of the problems or all of the responsibilities in who handles the different parts of information that we need, all of the knowing responsibilities. I'm guessing that this is maybe not that surprising, or probably should not be surprising. The next problem is the behavior. So we need something that is creating or registering a boat to a member. We need something that can generate this ID, and we need something that can create a new member. I think the easiest requirement here is probably the who should be responsible for creating a boat and assigning it to a member. So we can look at the information expert pattern, for example. Who handles the members' boats? Well, the member class knows of the members' boats because we have added this as a knowing responsibility. And the creator pattern says if A contains B, A is a candidate for also creating B. And in this case, the member contains the boats. It is then a candidate for also being responsible for creating the boat that it owns. So by using information expert and creator in this case, we can solve the problem of who should create or register a boat to a member. It should be the member class itself. Then we come into this little bit more interesting problem maybe of generating the ID, this unique ID. And the question we need to answer or ask ourselves is, who is responsible for this, and what information is actually needed to generate this unique ID? So To guarantee that the ID is unique, we basically need to know the ID of every member. And who knows every member? There is actually no one in this model right now that knows this. So this won't fly in the design model. So objects in the design model cannot just exist. They need to be handled in some way. In the domain model, objects can just exist. So then it's not a problem. But in the design model, we have to do something about this. And the next problem is also who should be responsible for creating the members. And again, who handles members in this design? No one right now. So looking at the domain model, we don't really get any inspiration from that in this simple model right here. So basically, we need to invent something. I decided to invent a member registry. So this is the pure fabrication pattern. So you are free to invent stuff. To handle the members, we need some form of a collection of members. I choose to put them in a class I call member registry. This is maybe not that much of a pure fabrication because there probably is a member registry at the boat club. Maybe we modeled it even in the domain model, even though it was maybe strictly not needed. So we add this class, we let it be responsible for handling all the members. So it now has the information that we need to generate a new ID. It knows all of the members. So it should have that responsibility by the grasp information expert pattern. It should also be responsible for creating all of the members by the grasp creator pattern. Since it contains the members, it should be responsible for also creating them. So looking at the little bit of the design model for these two requirements, we have 4 classes. We have the member registry. It has an operation add member. It creates a member and assigns it a new identifier. We have the member class. It has a name, a personal number, and this ID then. It can be used for registering a boat to the member, and the boat has a length and a type. So by simply trying to divide a big problem into smaller chunks, applying the knowing and doing responsibilities, starting with knowing is often a little bit better, we can design a solution using the grasp patterns for responsibility-driven design. And many of you, at least the ones that I have looked at, has a design that is quite similar to this. There are some variations. For example, not everyone handles the boat type as an enum, and I can think that that is okay, and things like that. But for example, not having an attribute in member that contains all of the members' boats is really odd. It goes against the domain model. It also goes against the requirements. Many of the requirements are kind of like, we have a member, now we need to get the boats of the member to print them in a list or to count them or something like that. So it would be natural to have a member object that can call get boats on, for example, to get the boats for the member. All right, that was basically what I had to say today. As some of you maybe saw on Slack, I made a little project also for this IoT stuff, and my basic idea was to have a water level sensor connected to this little Arduino Wi-Fi card that also runs a web server, so I can get a flooding alert if this sensor is triggered, and it also played a little melody. Unfortunately, the playing of the melody blocked the web server also, and the whole system became quite unresponsive. But I guess it's a learning thing there. All right. Quick stream today. Any more questions? Would it be wrong to create the member in the view when the user inputs the information? There can be variations in, for example, the argument here could be a member object. That could be all right. And the member registry then assigns the unique ID to this member object and adds it to the kind of like internal list of it. So there could be variations to this basic designs regarding what are the exact arguments and things like that. What is important maybe is that the responsibility of generating a unique ID is a model responsibility. So something in the model needs to do this, because we don't want that behavior in the view, because then another view could just create a member and add it to the registry, and this member may just have a weird ID or something like that. Yeah, yes, we have a lot of stuff in that IoT lab. I did not try the LoRa stuff this time. I've tried them once before, but there's a lot of different platforms to play around with in that lab, and I urge you to try to take some time and visit it and do some fun project, because there's a lot of stuff there, and it needs to be used. All right, so the thing that can go wrong here is that you have the generation of this unique ID is not in the model. That's one of the architectural problems that you need to be aware of. So model responsibility or not. Can we add some methods to one of the interface classes? I'm guessing you mean for workshop number 3. Sure, I guess that could be done. I don't know if it's strictly needed, but sure. Pre-test is on Thursday. I think it's, let me see. Oh yeah, the next exam period is the 13th. So that's when you have the next class. Right, any more questions? All right. As usual, feel free to ask questions on Slack and stuff like that. As I said, this week has been a little bit different for me, so I haven't been as active as possible, but as usual. But this will be as normal for the upcoming week, and there will be some more tutoring sessions that week also. So feel free to ask questions again in Slack as usual. All right. It's Friday and time to say goodbye. Have a nice weekend, guys and girls, and see you next week and in Slack. Bye.